here. Those who attend here walk many paths and have many beliefs. In general, we believe there is no single religious truth and that life is a spiritual journey best experienced with others. We think that what matters is people and the way we treat each other and our planet. Our mission statement is in your order of service, and you can get more information from our readers and from the welcome table outside. Our developmental minister, the Reverend Shelley Page, is away today, but during the week she can be reached, and the phone number is listed in your order of service. Today we would like to welcome Angie Rice, who is going to be our guest speaker. And she's going to talk about her journey of hope and peace. After the service today, please join us downstairs for snacks and conversation. And while you're there, you can check out our information tables and bulletin boards. We are so grateful to have each one of you here today. And we're happy to see every one of you. Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its vision change your heart. Every Sunday, we symbolically rekindle our inner flame as we light our chalice. Let us light this chalice today with our hearts full of hope, hope for ourselves, and hope for each other. Let this light of hope permeate every heart with love and peace. And we've asked Evelyn to light our chalice today, so the chalice lighting words are in your order of service. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Thank you, Evelyn.
You may know a different background to today's musical reflection song, but for today's, some minor changes were made. Changed the spirit of the song being sung as a personal conversation to yourself in searching for hope.
Listen to the sound from deep within. It's only beginning to find release. Oh, the time has come for my dreams to be heard. They will not be pushed aside and turned into your own, all 'cause you won't listen. Listen, I am alone at a crossroads.
February, I attended my first Equality Utah town hall meeting in Salt Lake City. Something inside me definitely and desperately wanted to be a part of trying to work toward non-discrimination laws being passed in the state of Utah for employment and housing. I signed in and I took a name tag and I sat in the back row. And that was the first time that I ever wrote my name on a name tag. And I sat there and I never could find the courage to put my name tag on my man's shirt. Someone who I knew was there saw what was going on and helped me out and helped me leave early. Now, today, I am grateful to be able to stand here as myself. And share some of my story with you. Before I start, I'd like to say and share that nothing that I've done, and nothing that I'm going to do, and nothing of who I am would be possible without the unconditional love and support of my beautiful wife, Sandy, of nearly 26 years, and my 3 amazing children. It was a couple of years ago that we sat together as a family on the couch in the living room and decided it was time to share with the children about who I was. Our oldest son is in the Air Force in Arizona, and so he found out at a little different time. When I had that conversation with Josh in Arizona, something very beautiful and magical happened for me. The relationship between a child and a parent, between the two of us, is maybe not something that I'm very proud of, off and on through those years. And when we had that conversation, all of a sudden what came out was a love and a respect and an understanding that he and I never knew before. And it's been great since. Our daughter, Danielle, she wanted to borrow the boots that she knew I had hidden. And she wanted to be my clothes shopping partner. She got married May 2nd. And we were there. She gave me permission. She said it was okay, and she almost wanted me to wear a dress to the wedding. And I wasn't able to at the time for fear of losing my job. Jacob, who many of you know in this congregation, he's a young man now, and I'm very proud of him. He was working on growing up to be a young man a couple of years ago, when we shared with him on the couch. And I worried about Jacob, because he's grown up from the time he was a young boy to want to follow me and do the things that I've done. Through the tears, I looked at Jacob and I said, "This doesn't mean you'll grow up like me." And without hesitation, that loving son of a young man said, "I would be honored to grow up like you." There are about 4 things I'd like to share with you today that have helped guide my journey with reflections of hope, in a spirit of giving, that my words may give someone else the courage to believe in themselves and to discover and cherish their own divine gifts of dignity and self-worth. First, a little bit about myself and my life so you can know a little bit about the kind of person I try to be in my life. As a young child in Vermont, I always looked to do the right things, always trying to achieve the goals that my parents and others set for me. I always tried to live by the values taught to me of unconditionally respecting others and serving when service was needed. That's how I tried to live, while all along knowing that something very complicated inside of me that I couldn't understand and that I could never share with anyone. At the age of 8, 12, 16, my life is full of a series of moments that I could explain to you. The difficulties, the anxiety that was pent up inside, the not knowing and not understanding and not being able to share. When I was 8 years old, my little sister, my youngest sister, she was between 4 and 5, and she was about to start preschool. And she had the most long, beautiful, thick hair that any young girl has ever had. And that was too much for my mom to keep up with. So I remember they took my sister to a stylist, and they braided her hair, and they cut it all off. It was cute. It was like a short little pixie cut. It was cute. And like any good parent, they saved the braid. I know that because I know where my mom hid it. See, in my mom and dad's bedroom, there was a little table in the corner. We were never allowed to go in there. And on that table, she kept a bin. In those days, that's the way potato chips came for us. They came in these cardboard barrels. And my mom recycled and repurposed everything. And one of those potato chip bins turned into the container that she kept all her curlers in. She kept it on that table in the corner. And on top of the curlers, she kept my sister's braid. And on top of that, she laid a scarf. At the age of 8, no one was home, and that happened a lot of times because that's the way I grew up. When I was home alone and safe by myself, I went into my mom and dad's bedroom, and I would stand there by that little table. I had no hair because my dad did my brother's and my haircut until we rebelled. And he just used clippers and buzzed it all off. So the only way that I could get that to stick to the back of my head was to stand there and hold it against my head with the band of my baseball cap. Later in my life, when I had the opportunity to talk to someone who might understand, they said, "Why did you do that?" And the only answer that I've ever had is that I wanted it to be mine. I delivered newspapers in that small Vermont town from about the age of 10 to 14. That's what you did in Vermont in those small towns in those days. You'd finish school and you'd run home and you'd drop your stuff. You'd grab your bag and head up to Main Street, either walking or on your bike, and pick up your newspapers so that you could go deliver your paper route. for the houses and the porches and the mailboxes around town. What I started doing at a very early age was that I would steal my mom's earrings. I didn't steal them, I borrowed them. And I would start my paper route on a side street. I'd pull up to a car and use the side view mirror. And I'd shove the earrings through my ears. I'd do my route. Before I arrived home, I'd stop up in another parked car and use the side view mirror. Take the earrings out and clean off the little blood off my ears, usually there. And I'd slip back into the house when I was done and put the earrings back in the box so they wouldn't be discovered missing. My parents never really noted too personally how exactly we looked, so I was able to get away with it over and over and over again for a very long time. I competed in everything that I could compete in. And again, that person who better understood me than myself at the time said that maybe I was trying to overcompensate. I competed in high school baseball and basketball and cross country and track. I excelled in academics. I participated in student government and church leadership. The more I did, the more that everyone couldn't notice the confusion and the complicated emotions that were always eating away at my insides. I learned at a young age to love old gospel hymns and children's church songs, and I leaned on them as I would sing pieces of them in my heart, trying to find peace. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to Him belong. They are weak, but He is strong. When I graduated from high school, I was nominated and selected to attend the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I went on from there to be an evaluator, search and rescue helicopter pilot in the Air Force for 5 years. Then a KC-135 refueling tanker pilot for 15 years. Flying special operations and combat support missions in Somalia, Desert Storm, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I was actively shot at in 2 of those. I've done a lot of good things in my life, and some very difficult things in my life. One of those things was learning to be an expert at hiding in myself and looking over my shoulder. Living in a prison that I locked myself into, I retired from the Air Force in May of 2004 and moved to Utah with my family. In the Air Force, behind closed doors, for many years, I self-medicated with alcohol. I felt as though I kept the whole world from knowing. But I know that one part of the world that knew was my family. Because they knew me oftentimes to be a very angry and depressed human being. In 2004, I added hormones from the internet, from a country that you and I probably can't pronounce the name of. I added that to my self-medication. As smart as I thought I was, to help cope with the anger and the depression. And it didn't help. It didn't change. Maybe it changed some. If you ask Sandy, she thinks I went into about 7 years of constant PMS. Apologize for the children. I continued to live in my prison, hidden, and I continued using simple lines from children and church songs to find peace in my heart. I am a child of God, and He has sent me here, has given me an earthly home with parents kind and dear. Lead me, guide me, walk beside me, help me find a way. About 4 years ago now, with the encouragement and love and support of Sandy, I finally spoke with a counselor a couple of times and went under a doctor's care for proper transgender health care. One of the most difficult things during all of this time has been living in two worlds. That's how I define my prison. If you've ever heard a transgender individual speak, likely you know, like Caitlin Jenner or anyone, we're not two people any more than you are. The pain comes from being one person, forced to live two lives in different worlds at different times. When we came to this congregation, which was not by accident, the very first time, burdened with a secret deep in our hearts and in my heart, we were embraced with love and acceptance. And another church song that even now is very difficult for me to sing without crying. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. asked if I could speak today. I was asked to speak, and the message was about hope. And my message is about hope. It's about the difficulties and the overcoming of things that so many people struggle with in their lives. Many times and most often we don't know what people are struggling with. I'd like to share some of my hope. Some of the things that have happened in my life over the last year and a half since that town hall meeting. I still have that name tag as a memory of what I was unable to do then. This congregation has helped me and my family find hope. And these are some of the things that we've had the blessing and opportunity to be involved in, and I have been involved in since that first meeting. I have the opportunity now, and Sandy has the opportunity now to serve at-risk and homeless youth at Outreach that this church family founded about 14 years ago, serving at-risk and homeless disadvantaged youth in our communities. I have the opportunity to serve homeless youth at Youth Future's shelter home in Ogden, that some of you work at. Many more of you helped myself and others open in the middle part of this winter, early spring of this year, now serving homeless youth every day. I was asked, and I've had the opportunity to serve the elder LGBT community for the state of Utah as a member of an advisory board for a program called SAGE. It's a little bit like Outreach is for youth. It's an outreach program for those that have lived into later adulthood with some of the same trials and sacrifices in their lives. I've been asked, and I now serve very humbly on the Outreach Board of Directors, trying to help move that program forward into the future. And I was asked, and I now serve very, very humbly on the Utah Pride Center's Board of Directors, trying to move the future of that service organization forward. I've had the opportunity to speak with legislators and LDS church authorities. Sandy and I, when we were able to together, and Jacob also, and myself when it was just me, we threw our souls into trying to get the non-discrimination legislation passed in this state. In the last legislative cycle, we spent a lot of time in Salt Lake City, up at the Capitol. One evening that we were up there was a reception. It wasn't a town hall, it was a reception for key members of the Utah Senate and legislature to be in a room with people like us and people like me, to try many times for the first time in their lives to be face to face. During that meeting, Sandy had the occasion to be standing off in the corner, and she exchanged some greetings and pleasantries with an elder statesman who was there in the corner. I was in a different part of the room, speaking with a few people about issues that I knew about, and I knew those people. And after this gentleman started to leave Sandy, she took his arm from behind, and as she tells the story, he was pretty startled by that. And she said, "Sir, could I please introduce you to someone?" And he said, sure, I guess that would be all right. And she brought this gentleman to me across the room. And we introduced ourselves very briefly, and he looked at me. Our eyes never broke from each other. He said, do you know who I am? And I said, no, sir, I'm very sorry, I don't. But there's something that I want to tell you. He said, I don't know where I stand on all this. And I said, I know, I understand. But there's something that I want to tell you. Well, this is not a choice. If it were a choice, I would never choose it. There's nothing that I can do about it. And I told him, I served in the Air Force for 20 years. I flew in 3 conflicts and was shot at in 2 of them. And the most difficult, scariest thing I've ever done in my life, bar none, was fear losing the love and the support and the relationship that I had with my dear wife, Sandy, and my loving and amazing children. And the fear that I had of losing the love and the friendship and the kindness of the people who I've met in my life began to share with me. He took my hand and he said, I'm Senator Stuart Adams. I've been brought in to redraft Senate Bill 100 into Senate Bill 296 for non-discrimination in the state of Utah in housing and employment. And I'm going to co-sponsor that bill in the Senate this year. With tears in his eyes, he got ready to leave. He didn't say more than that. But I knew that night that it was going to be reality. On March 11th, in the second vote, the Utah Senate passed that bill by a 23-5 vote, with 1 absent. On March 11th, the State House of Representatives passed that bill almost immediately with a 65-10 vote. I told you, I threw my soul into this. I knew nothing about politics and legislation before this. The governor signed it in the rotunda on May 12th so it wouldn't have a longer waiting period than it needed. And it had its standard 60-day waiting period with no fiscal requirement for implementation. That's legislator talk. And so on May 11th, when the clock struck midnight, non-discrimination for everyone in the state of Utah who are LGBT became reality. A piece of my story will be shared at an annual outreach event in September. I hope that many of you will be able to attend that. That helps fund that pro-quality Utah event in October. For those that may know, that's the Allies dinner. And as of May of this year, I have been completely supported by parents, my school administrator, co-workers, and the administration of Weber School District in becoming the first openly transgender teacher in public education in the state of Utah. My message is a simple one. This has been a year of tears, a year of beautiful discovery, and a year of growth for me. It's been a year of trying to create hope for myself and for my family and for others. It is my prayer, and I won't be completely happy until my prayer is answered, that everyone like me, or those who are put down or marginalized in all of our communities of diversity and struggle, are able to realize and embrace their own gifts of dignity and self-worth, like I'm trying to do with mine. Blessings to you all throughout your personal struggles and on your journeys. Thank you.